not yet.
I shot my shot. Let's just say that. Our map is ready. Let's see which map we're going to be playing on. 7-map pool. 6 out. 1 is left. And Xavier bans Consulate for Coastline again. All right. So, looking at our last match, and this is the comparison I want to start building up. How different is this going to be versus the Fnatic Nora game? Because we know that both teams like to run the Monty a lot. It's going to be different in here.
I would not want to play Xavier on Coastline just because of the shotgun play. Like, I'd want to play them on a bigger and more open map, something like Clubhouse, where you have some space to work with. Honestly, I think it's going to be a really annoying match for FAV to play against them, because unless they can contain the jump outs and all the running around, it's going to be way too hectic for their playstyle.
I have to agree with you there. We have seen it like 2 or 3 times now. Xav playing on Coastline with their shotguns. They just jump out everywhere. There's no way you can keep up. And if you ban out a Nomad, for example, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You'll have all of these jump outs. Nomad is definitely the operator that can deal with these the most effectively. We're talking about like the runouts, the shotguns, etc. Is Pulse really going to be this big of an operator for them in this? Because we've seen the Pulse 1014 plus how effectively he can be on this map if you're playing in Kitchen, for example. We get to see a lot of hookah defenses, right? So this would be the perfect spot to put him in.
I mean, if I'm FAV, I'd just bring a ton of claymores, maybe a gridlock. I block off both of the stairs and play mostly on the roof, because the shotguns aren't going to do you much there. Like, you can play this really boring from FAV's side and probably come out on top. The question is if they're willing to take these like super long fights and just wait it out.
Yeah, just take Nomad, Gridlock, Claymores, maybe Jackal as well, and then Lion and Dokuri. I think they would be good in that kit.
Thank you very much. All right, so we'll see. Maybe an ACS could be brought in here today. Big questions, more shotgun play. ACS. What is it? We've seen the ACS like once on an alibi, right?
Well, that isn't really a shotgun. It's a mini rocket launcher.
No. Yeah, it doesn't count. It doesn't count here. Like it's a slug shotgun, so it doesn't really work with the way they play.
I mean, look, TCSG.
They don't use that much.
No, it's TCSG's actually.
Not for the aggressive play.
No.
They use these actual buckshots. M110, maybe the FO12. We'll see that today with the M59, GSG9, like the M870. So
yes,
that's the shotguns we mainly see.
The M870. We were talking about it. Does so much work up close and personal. So maybe we get to see today on a Jaeger run out, right? We saw so many times of just the Jaegers running around with a pistol tapping people. It's as shotgun primary. So. Who knows? Our next match is almost ready, so let's take a look at what you guys think about this game. Our social media stats. Vote on these games at R6 Esports APAC. FAV Gaming 66-34 for Xavier. Man, Japanese fans definitely showing up in this one, but honestly, maybe Xavier can take it. We'll see who actually can transfer this into an actual victory in the game. Up to Xavier to extend their lead or make it the same as in phase 1 of this stage. Let's toss it over to our casters. Dev and Gio, all yours.
Cheers, Milosh. It is 2 teams who have been punching above their weight this season, and on our final Playday, our final match for these teams is their last chance to lock themselves in for the playoffs spots. Gio, we've got one more cast. It's the last one for the entire of APAC North. I'm going to miss it for stage 1, but this should be a cracker of a game. Xavier versus FAV. It is the Thai and Japanese bash here on the beautiful sunburnt beaches in the Spanish coastline.
You said it was our last cast, and I remembered it was our last cast, and now I'm really sad. No, this is definitely the best way to. I was crying on the last desk. I don't know if you saw that. I had to run to the bathroom straight after to go sort out my makeup, which is still blurred all over my eyes. So
it's an emotional time,
Milosh. Exactly. No, I am so stoked for this match because they covered it on the desk, but Xavier, especially here on Coastline, or Goatline, as you said to me in the DMs, they've shown something. I don't know what the right word to go for it is. They've shown a lot of shotguns. Yeah, some real crazy stuff. And I think FAV are going to do their best to ban out what they can to prevent Xavier from doing that again. That's why the Monty's been taken out straight away. But I don't know if anything can can put them back on the leash after they've got away and have been on their tear.
Pulse, Pulse, Pulse. Get rid of Napew's shotgun M1014 Pulse. Get it out of here. No.
All right,
Mute.
that is a shotgun.
It is. FAV Gaming are a funny one. They love to really vary their bans to counter-strat teams. Like, if you have a look at, and they've done all kinds of bans, Yings and Jackals and Maestros and Clashes and all kinds of... I mean, they even banned Mozzie in their debut match in this league, right?
Disgusting.
But I know. Well, no, don't disgust it. Come on, exciting. I love a little bit of diversity. And FAV, they're a team that, especially on their attacks, they bring to the table like some stuff that they've clearly dry run. They're very rigid strats in their mind, and they always bring some fun stuff to the table. But they're going up against the nonsense team. In my mind, this is like FAV Gaming are like the rigid team who knows exactly what they want to do before they get in the server, and Xavier are like, I'm gonna jump out this window. Is that cool? And it was like, yeah, go. And then like Napier just like finds 3 kills with the pulse shotgun. That is this matchup that we have right now. It is rigidity versus nonsense, and I love it.
What I love about this is the fact that because both the shields are banned, it's just taking me back to ranked, you know? It's like, it's just like, hey, I've seen this before.
It's like when you see the Monty in the Clash ban, you're like, are these guys cheating? Is that why they banned the shields?
Well, sometimes Xavier look that way because they've been so good, but so have FAV as well, I suppose. And I guess, I don't know, man. These two teams, they could pull out some wild stuff. I mean, especially someone we have to mention, who gets kind of swept under the rug a little bit in the shadow of Afro and number 2 is Type1. Type1 has been showing up these last couple of games, the highest rated player for the last 2 Playdays they've done. And he really knows how to flex on to pretty much anyone that is required to be played for FAV Gaming. And I think the fact that he's shown up so much has been a really big part of why FAV have become a lot more of a name here in APAC North compared to maybe what we were seeing at the start of the season.
And to continue on here with Type1, he's bringing the Hibana, an operator we saw Fnatic ban last game on Coastline. And I was actually in chat and I noticed someone say, why do you ban the Hibana? And the reason you ban Hibana on this map Coastline is specifically because of the cocktail walls, or the drinks walls, the billiards walls, which are exposed to the donut center that is on the left side of the screen. Thank you, medics. These walls, you can open these up with a Hibana. It's the only hard breach that's really viable, aside from Ace, who's not yet allowed in competitive play. If you can open that up, you can expose all the default positions within drinks, which you would typically play like one of your key anchors, like your smoke or your boil or something like that. And Type1 are gonna instead at least start for now opening up the VIP angle, which gives FAV a lot of control into drinks and into pool, and cutting off the vase rotate as well. For now, Type1 continuing to move top white stairs. He might find the first kill. Indeed he does. Red Sun's gone down.
And with the bearing 9, no less. I can never control that gun, but luckily he can. Yeah, it's great, but I suck. But, you know, even though they've been able to open up that wall and start things off there, Xavier do, of course, have Scatman sat there on the pulse, which you mentioned he likes to do very much. So they're going to have the cameras, not only him, but also the Black Eyes from the Valkyrie working in their favor. Afro's doing a laxing here, and he's decided he's going to play up here on the roof. If he can get a shot through there, then once again, it's going to be Xavier taking a bit of a hit.
I guess you could say he's just relaxing on the roof balcony at the moment. Xavier still trying to stand their ground there. Iron numbers disadvantage, and oh, that's a nice little one tap. See you later, DCH. Valkyrie's going to sit in her cameras for the next 2 minutes, or next minute and a half of this round, and well, FAV has started really strong here, and they're rotating for an Aqua take, the last little ingredient that they have to make sure that they get into the recipe is clearing downstairs, because late round, not only do we have Scatman down here with the shotgun and the C4, but Napew is not far away. Oh, surely not! Shin says, oh, whoops, that was a mistake, and Scatman shuts him down with the M1014.
The reaction time of a wild predator. You mentioned he has the C4, but he actually has used it. So the fact he was able to get that off so well saved his life. FAV Gaming still going to be moving on from that direction that you mentioned, but Xavier have shown a little bit more strength, as I say that. 2 of their players are going to be going down. Just Scatman remaining. He's got the pistol out, switching things up so that he can look through the cardiac sensor, but Afro has the time to put the diffuser down, but Scatman doesn't have the time to live, and FAV Gaming take the round.
A lovely way to kick things off for FAV here on one of Xavier's best maps. Remember, Xavier 7-1'd the Giants last week on this very map. And FAV, they started that with a 2-fold man advantage. Moving on forward, they realized that some of the players, at least Scatman, the Pulse, was roaming downstairs, and FAV dealt with that perfectly. Instead of going for a passive plant where the roamers downstairs could deny and get kills onto those players standing still from below, FAV decided, okay, guys, we know there's at least one downstairs. We have the man advantage. Let's just rush on in, take the entire bomb site away from the defenders, and that works perfectly. They managed to refrag it out until it was, I believe, a 3 versus 1, 4 versus 1, some such. And down the bottom, Scatman, I mean, he doesn't even have a rifle or an SMG to try to contest and retake up the stairs. So he was shut down. Lovely stuff to kick things off here from FAV.
Xavier are being stubborn. They're coming back to the same place. They know they could have done that. Oh, nice shots there from Taipon. I said that he was someone who was really worth looking out for. But this time, slight change coming out here from FAV, who've put Chloroform there on the cap. He wasn't on cap last time, was he?
He was.
Oh, he was. All right, never mind. It's not a slight change at all. That's fine.
Yeah, same up,
but quadruple C4 from Xavier smells like an explosion to me. They've decided the alibi, not enough. They did lose the alibi very, very quickly in the last round. And so they can obviously have the denial. There's the VIP wall that's been electrified, as well as the billiards courtyard quad wall.
I call it drinks. A lot of people have different names for it. I call it drinks. Yeah,
I was trying to think. I've heard so many different names for it that I was thinking, what's the most generic word I can just come up with? But either way, they obviously saw that that's where FAV Gaming were going in for their strategy last time. They used the Excarios to open that up. So now they have that denial. It's not going to give that avenue of opportunity for FAV Gaming. That was some nice 3D effects. If we had some 3D glasses on, that would have looked sick.
I would have been ducking to try and dodge the shrapnel out of my monitor. But yeah, I mean, great adaptation straight out of the gate. And, well, FAV are not bringing a Thatcher, so what are they going to do? They have to get rid of the electrical somehow or abandon any notion. And, well, it looks like they're going to just try to deal with without those breaches this time around. Already a great adaptation from Xavier. Let's see how FAV are going to deal with it. They've taken very similar control to what they did last time, but Type 1's not going to get the early pick at top white as there's no roamer there. Shin, lovely grenade, takes down Scatman, that pulse. And, oh, okay, well, that was a decent usage of the grenade to destroy the Vulcan shield and the barbed wire, but it didn't get the Electroclaw, which I think was what he was after, at least partially. So still Type 1 cannot breach the VIP wall.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It looked like that's what he was going for, and I was wondering if he was going to throw it actually into VIP or just outside it, because obviously, well, I guess he would have known where the Electroclaw was, given that that's where he chose to do it. But nice little drone here to see Onigiri just on his back, crawling along, bleeding out. It's a big injure there for the side of Xavier, and if he can't be rezzed, then that's going to be a significant man disadvantage. But he is going to be Napew's there to save the day, but the conflagration there from the Capitan is going to prevent the top of Cool Vibes from really being able to be pushed down.
Gio, I admire the brevity of your lexicon when you say conflagration to describe the incendiary bolts from Capitan. Now, moving forward.
You fancy yourself way too much.
Shut up. 5v4 for FAV Gaming. Look, pretty similar position to where they were in last round. They've done this roam clear, just droning out downstairs to ensure that there's no one flanking. Still, we have C4s on the board, 3 of them, in fact, for Xavier. So if they can get downstairs, they can deny this plant. But I expect FAV to, instead of doing a passive plant, once again, go aggressive and take the full site control away from Xavier. I think that's the play, especially since Onigiri is lit really significantly. Chloroform, okay, he's going to be taken down by Red Sun going from the Sunrise window. Afro goes straight in and takes down DCH. It's a massacre. Super Onigiri trying to sneak through the smoke. He might find one. Can he turn on to Afro? No! FAV Gaming hold down in the dire moments with everyone jumping into it. And that's 2 back-to-back attack victories onto Hookah Billiards.
You saw that as soon as Chloroform went down, FAV just saw it as their opportunity to move on in and collapse onto the site after straight away going in for the plant. And Onigiri, not only was he hindered by the fact he was incredibly low health and had to be cautious, but the smoke was there as well, and he didn't know exactly where the player was or if there was an angle that was being held onto him from behind. Xavier, the team who we were lauding as being the coastline team here in APAC, they found their ways to play it in these ridiculous methods with these strange choice of weaponry. And FAV have walked on in and said, sorry, what?
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many
Xavier
bombs
who? That's what FAV is saying right now. And look, Xavier is a really good team, and like we talked about this in terms of the standings first time around in the phase 1 when we did the first Swiss bracket, or set of rounds, they ended up in 10th place. That is really close to the bottom in a 12-team league, right? And then Xavier come out next time around, and going into today, they were at the top of the standings, 4-0, flawless. If they win this, they would stay at the top of the standings at least for this phase, but then of course Giants would still come out on top due to their performance in phase 1. But Xavier, it looks like their resurgence they've had here in phase 2 is about to be slowed down. FAV Gaming are giving Xavier a serious run for their money, but remember, this is FAV's attack, and FAV historically a team that's pretty damn good on their attacks, going onto a map like Coastline where we definitely see a lot of attack favor as well. Xavier, though, they're not finding their comfort yet here on Hookah Billiards. They've tried it twice. They'll move on over, shimmy on down to Kitchen Servers in the hopes that they'll be able to have more success.
Yeah, I think some players like Onigiri and Red Sun, we haven't necessarily seen everything we can so far from them in this series. And of course, there's still plenty of time for them to be able to settle in and make their moves and their momentum. It's something that we are a little bit guilty of saying too early sometimes, is calling whether or not a team is really on their game, when sometimes they just need a few maps to settle in. Now, I like the angles that are being held here by FAV. We do have Shin all the way out towards office. He was holding in that angle. He's making the rotation all the way around now. No longer going to be watching on that. And of course, he'll be able to send in those Geminis to get information for the rest of his team. But it looks like Xavier are going to be having this upstairs roam because they know that FAV are going to be coming in through the top.
Napier is the only operator bringing util to counter the droning from FAV because of that mute ban coming out. This is giving FAV so much more freedom with their drone game. You can see unimpeded 3 drones in Penthouse right now to clear this top floor, which is so pivotal for the attackers if they want to do a top-down take, which is a really strong take to try and clear out all of these players upstairs. But Onigiri here, opting for the M870. He says, 416 carbine, what? I'm going to bring this shotgun. And he's trying to hold hookah for now, but Shin, who was to contest, backs on off. So Onigiri not given a fight as of yet. He'll stay upstairs, though, as an ever-persisting threat of flanking these players upstairs who are trying to get shots down through the floor. Scatman narrowly dodges that. Fav still trying to play the fish in the barrel game on this vertical potential.
He's going to start to get those angles opened up, as you say. So far, hasn't seen anybody. And Type 1 instead is going to head towards service. Now, you mentioned this shotgun in the hands of Onigiri. This was infamously the weapon that caused Cloud9 so much grief when they played against him on this map. Very narrowly missing out then, and he's going to be going on the chase. Doesn't quite manage to land the shot. He's going to back off somewhat rather than taking on the engagement. Rotating all the way around and moving towards the site, but Chloroform, he was going for the plant there, but they're going to get taken down.
15 seconds to go.
What is this madness from FAV? They leave Xavier with just 2 players left, 1 player left. And DCH falls to Shin's G36. It was a mess. It was insane. But it was FAV's Gaming's round, and that's what matters at the end of it. 3 straights on their attack.
The dynasty of Jaeger shotgun has come to an end. Cloud9 watching this like, I'm sorry, what? FAV Gaming have just played with a late round aggression that Xavier have really struggled to deal with. And I think it's interesting when you look back at, for example, that series that they played against Cloud9, where a lot of the issues they caused Cloud9 were in the early and mid rounds. They picked off players because they didn't expect them to be playing in a certain playstyle or in a certain position, and that meant that when it got to the late round, there wasn't really that much tenacity that Cloud9 had on the situation. But here it's entirely different. What we're having is FAV Gaming get barely scratched in the early and arguably even the mid round, and as soon as it gets to the late round, they just collapse in and Xavier find themselves overwhelmed.
But at least we see something from Xavier to try to meet these aggressive pushes and executes from FAV, and that is the Warden pick from Napew. Fairly unusual to see a Warden come through, but no doubt, after FAV Gaming have been leveraging the smokes from the Capital so successfully on all of their executes, Napew has decided, I want to meet that with some fire of my own. The smart glasses that allow him to see through the smoke when he's not moving. Well, potential. Oh, and also a bulletproof camera from DCH on the wall looking into service. So this is a twofold adaptation from Xavier to ensure, and potentially even more. I noticed that they opened what I call pantry here, which is the back part of service as a rotate into lobby. That means that if FAV go once again really aggressive executing through service, there are so many ways that Xavier can have their roamers impact the rush site from FAV, and so many ways that the anchors, the Warden and using the bulletproof cams, can fight against that smoke execute.
This is something that we wanted to see Guts bring out earlier, if you think all the way back to that game we had earlier on today, where when the attacking team were bringing smokes, they didn't really bring anything to allow themselves to deal with that and to see through it. All right. Did your feed freeze? Yeah, my feed froze.
Look, I was kind of waiting. I was like, oh, he's just patiently waiting for the drop, doing a ninja. You know what, actually,
just hovering in midair.
You know in cartoons where like someone's like backing up, and then they walk off the ledge, and then they like look around and they like realize they're like, uh-oh, and then they fall down. It gave me vibes from that. But,
gave you vibes,
yeah, obviously,
it gave you vibes. Right, I see.
It's the vibe.
Like, it's just the vibe.
There is an Australian film called The Castle, which has a pretty significant scene where it's it's the Constitution, it's Marbo, it's the vibe, and all of our Australian viewers will understand that joke.
That sounds like a reference everyone will get.
No one else will understand it. So shout out to you, my Aussie brethren. But yes, we are obviously having a rehearse because something happened. Xavier and FAV freeze
broke the
frames.
game.
They broke the game. I think FAV were just like too nuts. They were executing Xavier so hard that they accidentally executed Rainbow Six Siege.
Well, the point that I was in the middle of making before we were so rudely interrupted was that in the series that we saw earlier with Guts versus Scars, one of the big problems that was happening was that Scars on the attack were bringing a lot of smoke, and that was literally allowing them to make the plants, and every single defensive round on that same site, Guts wouldn't bring something to deal with the smoke to allow them to see through it. There was no Maestro, no bulletproof cam, no Warden. I even made a joke at the time about how you could bring a Warden in that situation, and this time we are actually seeing that, and it's really nice and refreshing to see the adaptation, because that is such a major part of what has been preventing them to execute this successful defense at the very end. If they have that, then they can use that to their advantage. Now, of course, they are bringing, if I remember correctly, 4 nades, because they've got the Nook in there as well. So there is going to be a risk of the projectile play as well, and you can have some of that utility destroyed, you can have your Warden destroyed, and suddenly it's all obsolete. But you might as well try.
Yeah, give it a shot. I like the adaptations that Xavier's been bringing out. We noticed the Kayi to try and counter the Hibana. That worked, but then FAV won anyway. And here it could be the same story with all of the utility they're bringing to counter the smoke executes. Might not work at the end of the day, but since we got a minute, I'm going to start to take advantage of some of the prep I did that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. So
I just want to interrupt you there, because when you said, now that we got a minute, part of me legitimately thought you were going to be like, I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna sing for you, because that's something you would do.
No, they just pay me the casting rates that's extra for the singing rates. To your benefit. You're welcome, Gio. What I was going to say about Coastline, right? We're talking about how this is Xavier's playground, how they do all this rubbish with like shotguns and pistols and stuff, and it's beautiful, it's hilarious. But FAV Gaming haven't played Coastline this entire season of APAC North. In fact, it's been one of their most banned maps. If we go a little bit further back in history, though, this is a map that they played quite a few times in the Pro League within Japan in Season 11. And when I had a look, it was actually they lost this map to Norarengo. I went and had a look at that game. FAV only won 2 rounds in that entire match, and both of them were on attack. They were flawless, lost 3 rounds in a row on defense. Now, already FAV Gaming is looking better than they were then because they have won, is it 3 rounds in a row? Yeah, 3 rounds in a row on their attack. They're already done better than they did against Nora then. But I just want to highlight that they don't necessarily have a very good record over on their defensive side because they didn't win a single round against Norarengo on there. So as much as FAV looks amazing right now, I will credit Xavier 1 are having really good adaptations that aren't actually necessarily locking in the victories, but it's a nice idea that we're seeing from them. And I feel like and maybe at some point these adaptations will stick. And secondly, when Xavier flip onto the attack, I think FAV is going to struggle more.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about before when I was saying you can't really write a series off in the first couple of rounds. It's a lesson that every caster has to learn. It's like you can't set the tone too early because you will be proven wrong. The curse of the commentator is a thing. FAV look very strong right now. There's no doubt about it. But you did say Xavier, they have been making these adaptations, and we're yet to see what this adaptation is that they are bringing out in this round, or rather not what the adaptation is, but how it's going to work, if it's going to work for them.
I can tell you that it didn't work because we just got the call from the admins. The score is currently 4-0 to FAV. So I think we just crashed and they kept on playing that game. So what's great is...
I didn't realize that the game was still going.
Me neither, but yeah, I just saw the message from the admins. So FAV are now up 4-0. Don't worry, guys, we will get back into the game. We want to watch it as well. It's not just you guys. So 4-0 for FAV. 1, that tells us cool idea from Xavier, but once again, the pattern continues of Xavier having a nice adaptation, bringing something different to the table to counter as FAV is doing, but it didn't work.
And I mean, it's kind of strange to be talking about Xavier like this, given that they've gone undefeated so far in this half. And you have to remember, of course, that this half of the stage is the one that matters the most in terms of the weightings for points. So Xavier have really pushed themselves up to a very venerated position where they're going to have a lot of those points. They're going to be in a good spot as far as the global standings points goes. They're in the APAC mini major. Like, we're going to be seeing them at these top spots, but it's interesting to see them struggle. I have to say, it is interesting to see them struggle because this is not something that we've seen from them of late. And the fact that they looked so strong against Giants, whom they beat 7-1 on this map, Giants who have been the indisputed best team of this region so far throughout the season, this is absolutely kind of unprecedented, I want to say. And I think a lot of it is a testament to the improvements that FAV have gone through throughout the course of the season. Not that they were ever a bad team. They were sort of slightly above middle of the pack in the first half. They ended up 5th of all the teams. They had 2 losses, 3 wins. But I remember in one of the games in the first half mentioning how one of the things with FAV was that if you picked off number 2 or Afro too early, the team would fall apart. They didn't have that same level of coordination and ability between the rest of them to pick up what was potentially lost. In recent times, that's not been a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to credit FAV. They have been making a lot of significant improvements as time goes on. Not to say that they were at any point bad, but something I think that is favoring them here, and we're about to jump back in for round 5.
I can hear it.
Indeed we are. Have fun. Woohoo! Let's go. FAV Gaming up 4-0. But what I was going to say is Xavier, Coastline is Xavier's playground. They've played it umpteen times so far, twice in APAC North League and won it both times. But that's VODs, and VODs, if you're playing against a team like FAV, they can watch those VODs and start to read into your playstyle and start to counter you, and that's especially pivotal on a map like Coastline, which is really heavily leans into things like how the roamers rotate, where the attackers push from. If you go into the game already knowing how your opponent plays it, that can be to your advantage significantly. And FAV have zero VODs of this, at least not dating back, not until you go back to that Norengo game way back in Pro League, which is almost too long ago to not really necessarily be relevant. So FAV can read how Xavier plays by watching their past VODs. Xavier can't do the same, and that immediately off the gate gives FAV an advantage that they are utilizing to their fullest ability with 4 straight rounds.
So what's intriguing here is FAV have decided that they're going to switch onto the Thatcher, and it sort of makes sense from the perspective that last time Xavier did bring the wall denial, they brought the Kaid so that they could electrify those walls, but that's not here anymore. You don't have a mute in play either, you don't have Valkyrie. You can use the EMPs onto the Maestro cams, but then you still obviously have to shoot them to get rid of them, and that can give you a bit of an advantage. But other than that, there's not any huge denial, and it's... You know, you still use the Thatcher, it's always going to be useful. But I'm wondering if they were expecting a 6-pick onto that.
Well, it's funny looking at Xavier's lineup here, because while, yes, Shin has made an operator change, Xavier has made lots of operator changes. In fact, every single operator is different compared to what they brought last. Someone who could believe it's at least a different player is playing that operator. The only one that's prevailing is the Jaeger, which is now taken by Napew, who then gave the Goya. Okay, Goya was also here last time. Over to Red Sun. Scatman's on the Maestro instead of the Pulse. DCH is on the Wamai. And we're actually seeing, for the first time, Xavier starting to lean into the util sync strategies rather than their kind of more free-flowing shotguns, vertical game, roaming, that kind of strategy. And I like this complete change of tack, complete change of playstyle. It's yet another adaptation that Xavier's trying to bring to the table. And honestly, I think this might work against FAV. If we don't freeze. We may have frozen. I am sad.
Well, we can theory craft.
We can.
Down for some theory crafting? Alright. Well,
I'm down.
I have to think about where I was going with my theory crafting. Yeah, I mean, Xavier needed to change something up. Anyway, so they've decided to go for that entirely. And we've spoken a couple of times about projectiles, about the fact that FAV have been bringing quite frag-heavy operators. So now they have the Jaeger and the Wamai. They're going to be a little bit safer from that. Also, the dock as well. And the most interesting thing I thought about the dock wasn't the fact that the dock is being brought, but the fact they replaced the smoke in order to bring the dock, which means that that plant denial that you look for from the smoke isn't going to be there. Now, obviously, you do have the Evil Eyes, but if they're taken out before the plant has the opportunity to go down, then you're really lacking plant denial as a whole. So I think that was almost a risky 6-pick. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah. The one thing I will say for getting rid of the smoke is that the way FAV have been attacking is they're not going for like a safe plant. Like, for example, the typical thing, if you're going for like a static plant or a safe plant on that attack, you go from Aqua, you plant right behind the bomb, and the smoke gasses you out. But FAV aren't doing that, so the smoke is kind of less relevant. The Evil Eyes are as much for information, especially through the smoke, as they are for plant denial. So it may well work out for Xavier. I feel like we've said that multiple times. What I will say is Coastline is only 30% favored towards the defenders, which is an attacker-favored map. And if Xavier lock out the next two, then they're just doing what is basically par for the course here on a Coastline defensive run. But enough from us. We'll toss it over to our analysts. I'm sure you guys have got a lot to say, and we'll get back to the game as soon as we can. Over to you guys.
Thank you, James. Yes, as usual, on point, on time. We're just waiting until our game gets rebooted and we'll be back in no worries. We'll give you any updates as they arise, of course. But I think it's safe to say that this first half looks a bit one-sided, at least up to this point.
I think FAV has been really good at keeping a little bit of distance, and then, I mean, Hab and I were talking about how they played the entire round out. So there's a little bit of extra space and time for Xavier to make some mistakes and move around and get caught. And when they try to go from a roam and get back to site, they almost always get either traded or at least they meet a fight somewhere in between there.
It's indeed true. Like, you see that they're struggling to find these engagements. You saw it earlier as well in 90. You saw the Jaeger trying to chase someone down with that shotgun with the M870. But they're just playing that long angle, right? They're not giving them any opportunity to really get into it. And it seems to be working really well for FAV as well. Clearly, you can see the scoreline. They're currently 4-0 up, and Xavier not really somewhere to be found yet.
Yeah, and I really wonder what's happening there, because there's only so little space you can still do on this side before you have to throw everything out the window and change it. We've seen so many teams, especially today, with how close games have been overall, that the momentum can definitely shift completely to the other team once we go to the second half. So we are railing on some of the problems that are happening here, but who knows, on the second half, it's very possible that these same problems would arise somewhere else, right, for the other team again.
I think when you're FAV though, the fact that it's you're using time sufficiently and well on your attacks, that only gets easier on defense.
That's true. That's true.
So if time management is the thing that you're doing right going into your defense side, then I wouldn't be as worried. If let's say they were playing super aggressive now and that was what they were winning off, maybe they couldn't do that going into attack. But this just seems like it's easier to adapt. Then again, we might see a massive thunderstorm come from Xavier where they just completely turn around and, you know, start slamming them from every corner with utility. But it looks a lot easier to do it that way.
I wonder what Xavier has to fix though in the last couple of rounds, and looking into what would happen in the future once they switch sides.
For these last two, I would say play like the usual siege, as we say. You know, you play with 1 or 2 roamers, the rest are on site. You have that, you know, that stall utility left. Turn it into the 20-second meta, as everybody always says, because right now they're using a lot of time trying to like force Xavier to go more aggressive, get a pick or 2 from that, and then they start executing onto the side. Now, if you don't give them that because you're being passive and you also have the utility to try and stall it out, that time management might not be as efficient anymore as it was before.
I'd agree. Like shoot the drones and fall back. It's a lot harder to do on this map than any other. So I think they might get us stuck a little bit on the map. Had it been anywhere else, they could have shot drones. They could have fallen back to the next corner, the next doorway, shot the next drone, fallen back, and at that point, like Xavier's shown that they're willing to play super aggressive. So punching a window in the start forces FAV to take, or at least have some sort of respect for that. Drone it out, get some control. If they could waste time all the way back to the site, maybe that would help. But on a map like Coastline, you can't really do that. If they get courtyard control, or they split anything opening kitchen window and a hole into to the hallway there, then you lose the freedom of movement on the map, and I don't see how Xavier's gonna deal with this without being more aggressive with something that isn't shotgun, so they can actually fight at range for once.
Yeah, you're a bit limited when it comes to your rotation options. You can either dive out into this, something Wilkie used to repeat a lot about why he didn't like Coastline, and I heard that many times, that, you know, the center to exposed rotations is not that easy. And you know, it is obviously the more direct way of rotating out, but you're also limited in other ways. You have 2 staircases that you can go through. Otherwise, you have to dive through hatches. People can catch you off. These things that you can do as an attacker with correct droning and positioning to really clamp down on whatever defender is roaming, because this is not as big of a map, at least in terms of the amount of pure droning and information gathering that you have to do constantly in comparison to Clubhouse, for example, or back in the day with Bank, that really forced a lot of teams to invest a lot of time into these sorts of plays. But gentlemen, I am happy to report that the players are back in and we're ready to go to cast. So we'll just leave it to our casters to fill you in on everything that's happening so far. James, Gio, you guys have done excellently so far. Carry it over, all yours.
I like how I get my real name and you get your alias. How's that feel?
What, Gio? Yeah, that real alias. I always, you know, since let's take some time for a PSA. Everyone always like,
oh no.
Everyone's always like, why did you decide to call yourself Gio if you already have a player called that? And it's at that point that I open my passport and I look at my name and I go,
it's her name.
And I think, why did I decide to call myself Gio? I should ask my parents. No, it's my real name, people. Can't change.
It is
can't
her
change
name.
That.
Oh, well, you can technically,
well,
but
like,
Gio's a nice enough name. Why would you change it?
Oh, that's so kind of you. James is okay.
I said nice enough. Come on, don't take that as too much of a compliment.
All right, I'll be careful not to.
Well, you know who probably needs some compliments now?
Xavier? Yeah.
But hey, they found one round, right? I mean, we may have missed that one, but
Oh,
I'll take it.
I was thinking, I swear they were on hookah last time, but I guess they've changed their site. But yeah, I didn't notice that they actually played that while we were absent.
Yeah, I apologize, everyone, that we haven't managed to watch the previous 2 rounds in its entirety. We've just seen the prep phase, but you know, we're doing everything I can and everything we can, and the production team is doing their best as well. And so everyone here in R6 Esports APAC is doing our best. And hey, let's hope we don't crash again. Xavier now finally got that round, and something I mentioned before we threw over to the analyst is the fact that 2 out of 6 rounds on the defense is actually par for the course on Coastline within the APAC region, in APAC North. So if Xavier win this round, all of the things that we were saying were problems for them and all of this, you know, critique that we had in saying FAV was looking so good, maybe that kind of gets just pushed to the wayside and we start to think, okay, hey, this isn't so bad. Let's see how Xavier do on their attack.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly fair way to look at it. Of course, we've got to see how it is that they do go on this this site. It does look like Scatman has returned to the carbine. He's decided to head back to normality. Yeah, good on him. Return back to normality. So, yeah, the shotgun didn't get much before, but Shin's going to be starting things off with the kill there onto Onigiri. That's the Finker. Still got those adrenal bursts left, and that does mean the stim shots from the dock isn't going to be available there to the defensive side.
Speaking of things that are returning, looks like FAV are returning to form here on their attacking side. Another pick, Scatman goes down, and now the defenders off-site, such as these roamers, rotating back from the lobby to support Napew on the bomb site. And, well, FAV are in a great position now, opening up vertical angles thanks to number 2 with his sledgehammer, and that hatch in hookah exposing the position of Napew below. He's put under the pump. A lot of angles to watch. Lots of time remaining. Means that Xavier really need to start to bite back and get aggressive, find some picks, or hope that FAV makes some crucial mistakes in order for Xavier to have a chance here in the 3v5.
That is what they're going to have to rely on, and with number 2 opening up the floor of hookah, it's going to make it harder for Xavier to evade a lot of the damage that will be coming in. Now, we did see one of their players slightly off-site there. He'll be able to do a flank if he gets the opportunity, but as you say, going up against 5 players, that can make it quite hard. Nade gonna be cooked. Is it gonna get Napew? Nope, sounds like he gets eaten there by a magnet, so that's gonna save him for a bit there, but 2 kills coming out from FAV, and that leaves just DCH remaining.
Black Ice won't save you here, I'm afraid. 1 versus 5, a flawless round for FAV Gaming. And, well, they started very strong on their attack. They finished very strong on their attack as well. 5-1 going into their defenses.
Maybe us coming back was the curse.
For Xavier, I guess. Well, I mean, to be fair, each team won 1 round while we were, you know, off with the fairies. So I don't think we're that much of a curse, despite all of the Caster's curse memeage you see out there.
Memeage. Wow. Oh, these kids with their memeage these days.
Look, don't make fun of me, Gio. I don't like it.
Okay, then. Well, we're going to be moving into the second half anyway, and now this is going to be FAV's turn to show what they can do on the defense, and more importantly, Xavier's turn to show what they can do on the attack. We mentioned how this is not a particularly defender-favored map anyway, as it stands. And Xavier were clearly having some issues, but they could find their time to shine as they come here into the attack. Interesting that they are going for kind of something similar in terms of bringing the Hibana. They've decided to bring the Finker and the Spear as well, but things are going to be slightly different with the Nomad and with the IQ. Now, I was watching a VOD review the other day. Actually, I think it was Super who was doing the VOD review, one of the players from the Sonics in NA. And one of the things that he mentioned, which was really interesting to me, was he said, I don't necessarily have a preference for bringing Nomad on attack, because on Coastline, you should be able to hold those angles, and you could bring an operator who does more. So it obviously suggests that Xavier are going to be looking to prevent those flanks that could be made there by FAV, but the question is, could they have brought something more valuable?
Attackers have located
That's a great
bomb.
point, and I suppose the first thing you think of there in terms of what utility may be lacking, it's the explosives, because that's what people often talk about. When defenders lean into that util sync play style, such as we're kind of seeing that from FAV. We've got Goyo and Maestro, plus the Jaeger, which can chew up any projectiles, but it looks like Xavier aren't really struggling thus far to get rid of this this util that would be, I guess you could say, sunk. And that is the first Vulcan shield dispatched with, I believe that the red canister was actually just exposed to ruins and it was shot by Onigiri. And he's trying to leverage this position as much as he can and punish any players rotating through billiards. Afro is the main one that I would be worried for. But so far, he stayed alive, and here we go. The ex-Kairos actually exposing the positions it drinks. Taipon needs to be very cautious. That's why he's worming his way around within billiards to try and find an unexposed position. Nade! Oh my goodness, what is that? See you later, Afro. And Onigiri is going to be pretty happy with that grenade all the way from ruins.
Yeah, this time not going to be caught out by any of those magnets as they're not on the board. That means that something like that is just all the more satisfying. There are the pings that are going to be coming out into an Aqua. Well, there's no one actually going to be there just yet, just on the rappel outside, but FAV Gaming are going to be aware of where that presence is, just droning in for themselves, and Chloroform is positioned very aggressively down here. Now, he could, of course, bring out that C4 should anyone decide to push into Aqua from the south.
Xavier, 5v4 man advantage. Ooh, that's a great position spotted out. Oh, look at that perfect pre-fire through the wall. That was insane.
Attackers activating diffuser.
Chloroform does land, or rather the C4 does land, and we're in a post-plant situation now. And all Xavier have to do is bring down the pulse, bring down the Jaeger,
Defender has left the designated
and they
staging
should
area.
be able to
Defender
get
has been
this.
discovered.
30 seconds remaining, but they've got to find the players yet.
Now in the 3 versus 2, Xavier, all they got to do is cover this diffuser. Number 2, very difficult position, pre-firing as much as he possibly can. Chloroform as well on the flank. Napew may well get caught out here. Number 2 gonna get the pinch down. That works, but it's too far gone. There's no chance that the defenders can disable that diffuser. Chloroform, no chance he's gonna get anywhere near padding his stats. And Xavier start things off on their attack very strong.
And this is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see things be picked up by Xavier here. FAV Gaming unable to hold on to that defense, but they still have time. They still have the opportunity. Except one thing that we have been so used to seeing in APAC, or at least the latter half of this season, is what I meant to say, is you see a scoreline like this and you're like 5-2. Okay, they've got to get 2 rounds, that's it. And suddenly it becomes a 5-3, and then it becomes a 5-4, and before you know it, you're into overtime. So Xavier, that's what they've got ahead of them now. It's going to be FAV changing things up as they head here into Kitchen.
Defenders
And they've decided to bring some of that electrification. They're going to make it harder to be able to open up those walls, potentially open up that hatch from above. And I like that they're actually bringing the Wamai as well as the Jaeger, because that wasn't something that happened last time. And they, of course, felt the pain of that as that nade from, was it Onigiri? Landed in on them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was actually a nuts nade. I'm pretty sure he threw that all the way from ruins to behind behind the Aqua Bar, which is a nuts shot. Also, Gio, I believe I owe you an apology. I think I directly talked over you last round, because my Discord was muted and I couldn't hear you for a few seconds. So I apologize. We don't want another one of those double pass moments.
No, I accept your apology. It's just, I heard you kind of clip what I was saying, and I was thinking, oh no, not this again. I'm having flashbacks.
Oh goodness. Well, we'll see if it happens again. Maybe we'll find another clip-worthy moment, but who knows? Let's hope that the clip-worthy moments are provided by the players rather than technical issues. Now, 5v5. And as you mentioned, Fav gone down to kitchen this time around. Xavier, they looked really good on their attacks, but no info for that grenade means it will net nothing thus far. And Xavier, honestly, I can't see a specific direction or push that they're primarily trying to front, but at the moment, more so they are spread out and starting to prong the bomb site from multiple angles.
Ooh, prong the bomb site. Yeah, I actually quite like this because FAV obviously have these positions here over where like Chloroform's here in the main lobby, white stairs. He's watching how that, wow, okay, DCH is gonna get a 2K off the back of that. That was not what I was expecting, but it's certainly a nice start there for Xavier, crippling FAV Gaming as both Shin and Afro lose their lives. Chloroform's desperately going to be searching for information, and actually the spread of these players away from the site might have to start moving back, and number 2 as well over in Sunrise. Onigiri shooting in because he knows that player was in there, but he's going to be pushing on up. This is pretty aggressive positioning here from number 2.
What we typically see from defenders at a disadvantage. Try and get aggressive to pull back that numbers into their favor. Doesn't work for number 2. Onigiri's been on fire on the attack thus far. Finds another. All on Chloroform upstairs. And that's a flawless round for Xavier. On their attacks, they have the teeth that they didn't have on their defense. And they are, step by step, getting closer to an even 6-6. Or 5-5 rather, potentially not even needing the overtime.
Shotguns are temporary, but headshots are forever, and that is exactly why they're being able to make these attacks work out for themselves. FAV are going to be swiftly moving on to the next bomb site, not wanting to hang around too long, just to see it slip away from them again. Again, they're going for this very similar lineup. They want that pulse. They want to be able to get the information. One of the problems they had before was there was such a spread of these players that they weren't really in any position to be able to help one another out. When number 2 got shot at the end there was no refrag that could have come in. No one was nearby. When the whatever it was that happened with the DCH's 2K, that was pretty disastrous for them as well. And then, of course, you had Chloroform left on his own at the end. And ultimately, there was just none of that physical support that really would have been used or done well on the side of FAV Gaming. Well, I'm going to hope that Dev's not speaking, because I can't hear him speaking.
Hello.
Oh, you're talking. There you are.
5 seconds remaining.
I am back. I had to reconnect 3 times.
I'm so paranoid. Every time I don't hear you talk, I'm thinking, please don't actually be here. Don't actually be talking, because I don't want...
I decided... I heard you, like, your sentence kind of cut out, and I thought that you...
I can get up really close to the microphone if you want.
No, it was not you. It was the program, the software. Sorry. Let's move on. I don't want this to take away from the round. And look, if I'm really quiet, it means I've disconnected again. So Gio, I have full faith in your abilities to YOLO it yourself. Now, Xavier on their attacks, 2 in a row so far, building up that momentum. It's what we like to see. But Chloroform getting good information on DCH outside. Now remember, last round DCH found a double right at the start, thanks to that air jab and then good coverage, suppressing that aggression from FAV. And honestly, there is a point where FAV has to decide maybe that aggression isn't working out so much for us and we need to try something different, especially when Xavier are playing quite passively and in such a way that they are ready to counter that aggression.
DCH opening up the windows there into Sunroom, which is going to apply pressure on number 2 if he decides to move on forward. He's actually going to get stunned out and could get caught out here. That's exactly what happens as Napiu secures that shot. That gives a lot more control here to the attackers as they take this office area.
Controlling the top floor. Onigiri trying to use this vertical game, but isn't anything from it so far. Good pinch though onto number 2 earlier. I've got to say, Xavier are doing well to contain these roamers. They're still trying to figure out exactly how they wish to execute this. More flank watch. Great job from the air jabs. Means they won't necessarily have to dedicate a player to that. But what is the intended execute from Xavier, especially as they don't actually have full top floor control. Chloroform is in a great position, and he's got someone on that camera in Aqua as well. Chloroform could potentially actually peek out and take out Napew outside the blue window.
He's, of course, going to be giving away a lot of his positioning with the audio, but it's going to be Shin who's falling actually here. That's another one there for Xavier, as Onigiri has to spend 16 years reloading his weapon. That'll give Chloroform some time to be scanning out with the cardiac sensor, but so far hasn't found anything, and it looks like Afro is actually getting ready to be able to catch Napew out. Moving closer to the building, and he does get the pulse. If he moves back in, as Afro's going to do after catching him out with the run out.
One kill, but punished, and Xavier, it looked almost as dominant as their flawless round. Get another attack victory. And, well, we mentioned that if Xavier can pick things up on their attack, maybe they'll be able to even it up. And look, they're not disappointing here. Coastline most certainly attack a favored, and Xavier is showing that maybe that one defense round they managed to pick up is enough.
That could potentially be, you know, if it gets to the point that Xavier are being so dominant on their attacks, FAV are going to wish that they'd had that extra round just to clear out that entire half and put themselves on match point so that they don't have that leeway quite as much. It would give them a lot more of a surety in going forward. As it stands, they obviously don't have that. And you can't change the past, but they're going to have to find something that will stop Xavier from being able to capitalize. Whether it's opening these windows, finding the angles in, working together to coordinate on ensuring that they get the picks onto the right players, they're making it work, and FAV are collapsing in the face of it.
But at least we're seeing some variation from FAV. They're not just hammering themselves into the wall over and over again. They're trying some diversity in here. Let's look at the operator lineup. The Valkyrie for the first time picked out. Potentially enable some more aggression, but DCH is back onto that IQ and can find the black eyes and suppress that info gathering from FAV. They're also extending their hold into theater, at least somewhat. Chloroform as well on the poles. At the moment, the thing that it makes me concerned for the Japanese is the fact that they've completely lost momentum here. They were going from 4 rounds in a row, they lost one on their attack, and then finally brought it back for a 5-1-1/2, and here it's just been all for Xavier. There's nothing not even any of these rounds have really been close. FAV have just given up everything. They need to get back some confidence and take this.
And I think one of the questionable things about it is they've been bringing basically the same lineup the whole time. And yeah, maybe some of it is a momentum problem, but if you're going to be trying the same thing over and over and you have lacked that momentum and you are kind of falling apart a little bit, it's going to be so much harder to make really drastic changes that you require if you're just playing the same thing over and over. Even if you change things up once and you say, right, we're going to go in for this strategy, we're going to try it, we're going to see if it works. Maybe that could change things up. I don't know. I'm not a coach. I can't tell you if that's the right decision or not, but it is frustrating to see the same thing come out from them and failing every time.
But I like this. Almost half the round down, and FAV still haven't lost a player. That's more than we can say for most of these rounds thus far. And despite FAV sacrificing the wall denial on the drinks walls, and Xavier now breaching that with the Hibana, FAV are playing around it by not playing around it, if that makes sense. They're not actually playing in that position, so they're not going to be exposed, and that means that Napew downstairs also won't be able to find anything with this vertical game. FAV are instead extending their hold over toward VIP with long angles all the way onto the Billiards bomb site. Taipon finds the opening pick. Finally, we're seeing FAV start something on their own defense that seems to be working, and now 1 minute left for Xavier to try and pull something out of this.
Yeah, and the positioning here in Hookah as well is really holding Onigiri back, as both Afro and Shin are ready to really prevent him from moving in. But as I say that, it's gonna be Afro the Doc who's taken down, and that means that they could start to move on in. Looks like that's gonna be what is happening as Xavier get ever closer to the site.
They're actually in Billiards right now. There's nothing stopping them from planting. Scatman gets it down. Napew was covering below, and now FAV have to retake, but they have numbers advantage now. 4 versus 3. starting to work their way for this. 2 players to flank together down through luggage. They might actually be able to take down Scatman on this rappel, but the air jab detonates. Now Scatman will know about that position. He's watching for it, just waiting to see that pixel change color. Shots out, but doesn't land enough to get a kill. Now peeking out towards him, it looks like maybe Xavier can cover this. Only 2 players left. The FAV on this retake, just 1, all on Taipon, and he is shut down. I like the idea from FAV Gaming, but Xavier too strong in this post plant to enable that retake.
You could also see that they just didn't know where those shots were coming in from. I think the Valkyrie sent out a C4, if I'm not mistaken, but it was just such a Hail Mary. Like, I'm going to throw this out and hope it lands on something. It didn't look like they were really looking over towards Aqua, where the rappel was. And it just felt like a little bit of a panic. And I think that's probably a good way of putting it, is the fact that Xavier have just waltzed into the site so cleanly every time now that it has sent FAV into a panic. And now they're finding themselves at 5 and 5. I said that Xavier would have a little bit of a task at their hands to bring it up from a 5-2 all the way to where they needed in order to get to match point. But so far they've proven that they're capable of doing that.
And this is where we begin to get extremely worried for FAV. They have had some fantastic performances and some very shocking performances here in the APAC North League thus far, and we thought this would be a dominant victory in their favor, but Xavier continuing their strong form of attacks. When they played Giants on this map just 2 days ago, Xavier won 5 out of 6 of their attacks, and well, if they can do the same here, that will let FAV push to overtime, and then it'll be a game of, well, I guess you could say whoever starts on attack, but also, which would be Xavier as far as I'm aware, but also who can make the adaptations to try and pull away a defensive round. And I mean, that game starts right now. Xavier already won a single defensive round in the first half, and now FAV, they have to repeat that. They have to match Xavier's bet right now, and it's proving to be incredibly difficult. It seems like everything FAV is trying just does not work.
But we're once again seeing this very aggressive positioning from number 2 just inside of Sunrise, but we did see him get caught out last time he attempted this. Onigiri might be able to repeat what he was able to before. Not going to throw in a nade because it's likely he's protected. He is the Wamai, of course. He will have his own magnets in there with him. The electrified shield as well for that added protection. But he's just looking in for the pixel angle, and currently they're holding it together. Napew going in. He's going to be throwing in the flashes. That'll stun him out, and there goes the nade. The shield is now gone, and he's going to be relying on a lot less protection than he previously had.
Build 5v5, Xavier are getting some good ground. Droning out these positions, they see the heavy hold in Sunrise, and still this drone hasn't been punished. It's a lot of information, and now Napew can take this aggressive position. But with all these walls breached to his right, Shin with a one-tap onto Onigiri. Napew's in a great position to cut off this rotate out of Sunrise. The players from FAV have to stay in there. Surely someone from FAV can flank and take down Napew through these open courtyard walls. No doubt that's why FAV opened them in such a way. Afro could peek on out, but he's concerned that he'll be exposed if he does so. Napew just waiting for a player to rotate, but no one is doing it, and I think that's the right decision here from FAV. Chloroform could potentially get some information. That's really what FAV need right now. They need to punish Napew before he can cut off one of these players from Sunrise. They need the info to make it work.
What it will force Xavier to move in closer to the site, and FAV can set up potential crossfires should he have to cross them. But it's going to be Afro who's the next one to be caught out. First one going down from FAV Gaming there, as succeeded by DCH. Number 2 taking a decent amount of damage as well. FAV Gaming don't have many opportunities to mess this up. They're going to have to ensure that they keep this going if they want to take this into overtime and have a chance going for themselves. Napew's going to be hopping on in, and he gets the headshot there onto Taipon. That was filthy. And now can he find a second? No, he can't. But DCH has got his back.
Xavier trying to force this diffuser down, but FAV, they have what it takes to deny it. That's perfect from Chloroform above now. Xavier, 15 seconds. They have to get this kit planted. Red Sun's gonna start it. Can number 2 deny? I don't know whether FAV have the info right around the corner from each other, but both players are patient. Number 2 has to make the first move, but he gets pre-fired. All on Chloroform. This is their closest that FAV have been to getting a defense win, but Xavier is stealing it away. That's the pre-fire to come through from Chloroform. It's a 1v1. He has time to reload. DCH has to clutch this. He has to hold the post plan. Is Chloroform gonna stick it? He might just! And FAV Gaming get their first defensive round and head us on to match points.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay, Chloroform, if you did not get that kill at the end there, that would have been all over for you. Napew was being very zealous with his move on into sight. And I thought he would be able to get that second headshot that he was looking for. Now, yeah, things were followed up by DCH and they could get a few kills, but it still didn't go quite as well with the aggression that they were hoping to achieve. Now, this should give FAV a little bit of a confidence boost going into this next round. They're going to need it. It's on match point. They did a very, very good first half, and it led us to believe that they would be taking themselves to match point very quickly. Obviously, it's been a little bit more of a challenge than we maybe previously expected, but right now they're there. This is the opportunity they have, this is the opportunity they need, and if they can do it, they will be taking down, I guess, the champions of this latter half to end out the first stage of the season.
FAV in such a tough position right now, but surely, like you're saying, Chloroform would have felt good after that one. He'll have his confidence back, and the rest of FAV need to as well. Now, Xavier, when they were on their defense, they won the 5th round, and then they lost one. Surely FAV can stick it out here, because if they don't, if they lose this defensive round, we go to OT. And in OT, as far as I'm aware, if I am reading the map video sheet correctly, Xavier started on attack, and no doubt that gives them the advantage. And this is such a difficult position to be in right now, FAV. Either you win a defense now, or you've got to win at least one in overtime. And, I mean, there's no time like the present, right? Hookah is not a bomb site they have won as of yet, but they need to get into gear and make this work.
Hookah is also a bomb site that not only have Xavier won on their attacks, but they've won and planted the diffuser. So if they can repeat that, that's one more issue that FAV have to deal with. And of course, they were able to get the disable on that last round, but it was very close. It was super close. DCH very, very nearly got that one in the bag for Xavier, so you can't rely on that always going well. Now, interestingly here, there isn't a defensive presence in Hookah. They've kind of left it a little bit open and holding back somewhat further along. The castle isn't too far away, and that means the Napew is actually going to have to breach open the barricade on the windows.
My ooh was because I thought maybe he would hot breach it, but no. I got my hopes up. But, I mean, FAV have actually set up to counter presence in Hookah, and you'll actually notice FAV are once again playing really off-site and trying to play for this retake strategy. Now, my concern here is the Nomad. It was so difficult for FAV to deal with last time, and Chloroform finding the opening pick, that's so pivotal. But trade comes out. Red Sun, great stuff, evening up the numbers, and also taking off that pivotal player downstairs that would deny the plant in the late round. Xavier have everything that they need to make this happen. And I was actually incorrect before. Xavier started on defense in overtime, which means this is even more pivotal for them. FAV Gaming will have another shot to just win out 2 attacks if we go to overtime, whereas Xavier, they have to win this attack right now, or they have to win a defense, which is so difficult in OT. Ooh, was that shot off by Taipon? That is so impactful.
Well, we want to be seeing FAV getting the impact if they are to win this one out. Napew down below, he's working on those pings, but so far not being able to get anything through the ceiling of blue. Afro can look down from above. There are the holes in the floor that allow him to do that, and of course he'll be able to stim up some of his teammates. Onigiri moving forward, he does finally get the kill as he has just so many bullets he can keep going. There's another kill coming out, and it looks like Xavier are just going to be cleaning up.
What?
And that's exactly what happens. All they had to do was walk on in and shoot, and FAV Gaming fell to the floor, and that means It's overtime.
We are going the distance here, Gio. This game is tight. Xavier finally managed to tie us up after it looked like they had maybe got themselves to the point where FAV could edge in through. No, now Xavier back on the defense. We're going back as if it's the first half once again. Xavier have to defend, and they're going to go for hookah billiards. It's the only bomb site they were successful on when they were on their defense, but they won it once out of 3 attempts. Now, that is not a good look. That is still a pretty damning stat for Xavier right now. FAV Gaming, they need to win this attack. They're in the advantage. They should win this attack, and that puts all the more pressure on.
We also didn't get to see that round, so it makes it really hard for us to judge whether what they're doing is the same as what they did last time. The only thing that we can hope for their sake is that it is. They're going to be working with what worked before. Again, they're trying to protect themselves from the smokes that we did see FAV Gaming utilize so heavily. Chloroform there on the Capital is going to be in charge of that. And therefore, the evil eyes from the Maestro are going to be really important in allowing them to have that information, especially once or if the plant comes down.
Xavier, so pivotal right now. Napier going back on his favorite pulse shotgun. I don't believe it was actually Napier that ran it earlier on the first half. It was Scatman, yeah. Yeah, it was. So, Napier spotted though. That rotation spotted by Shin's drone. That's important. And something you mentioned when you were talking about Super's VOD review and how on Coastline you can very much cut off rotations just with drones and with angles. That's something that FAV tries to lean into. And funnily enough, when Xavier were running the Nomad, it was super impactful for them. And FAV Gaming didn't seem to need it to cut off those rotations. They're relying heavily on the drones. And I guess you could mention the mute ban to factor into why that's been so effective.
Yeah, it gives a lot more free roam for that information to be taken without being impeded and being prevented from the defensive side. Shin's basically just trying to pull an onigiri here. And that Finka LMG, very, very popular choice here in APAC, and if you can make that work for them, then that'd be a great position here for FAV Gaming.
Bit of a roam. Bit of presence watching towards 90 now. Scatman got a great evil eye. Also a shield, but Napier downstairs. He's getting lots of good information. What is that? Onigiri taken down on the peak. Pre-fired through the wall. I think he was prone, just looking through a bullet hole. Great pre-fire from number 2, and he only took 1 bullet in response. Things are heating up, but Xavier have 2 C4s downstairs, and Napier is just waiting. There's a pre-place on the roof. That's Red Suns. He's just going to call for his teammate to detonate that, but now with the player rotating away, he puts it down.
Yeah, no longer in Hall of Fame as Type 1 moves around, and that's Napier's cue to also do the same thing. Concerned that those attacking players may be getting closer to the site. Chloroform's going to be ready to send in the flashes, and he just wants to clear out that utility. There is the Wamai, so it can make it harder for the Capitan to get as much value off as he was like, and that's actually DCH playing there in billiards, in drinks, as you like to call this area, behind the ADS, which hasn't yet been cleared.
Nor has Napier downstairs. Now finally, FAV Gaming start to get themselves in a position to counter this, but 40 seconds left. FAV may have the man advantage, but they'll need to push very aggressively through the site. Napier actually opens up an angle through which he could throw C4 if needed. That's a smart move, and he's going to try and do that. FAV Gaming, 20 seconds for this execute. They have the man advantage. They start to go aggressive, but DCH wins that fight. And the Vulcan shield shuts down number 2, as does the C4. It looks like Xavier may be able to hold on for their defense. And another kill for Napier with the pistol. Shin and Chloroform in a 2 versus 3 with 4 seconds left. All on Chloroform, but Red Sun spearheads Xavier into another defensive win, putting the onus on FAV Gaming to do the same here in overtime.
Xavier, who struggled so much with the defense on the first half of this game, pull it out when it matters the most. And now, if they can take this attacking round, they will win on overtime match point, and we've seen how much they were able to do in their attacks. The fluidity with which they ran these attacks, the way they pulled rings around FAV Gaming. Right now, FAV are going to be feeling that pressure because they've just witnessed that second half, and they witnessed how well Xavier did.
Makes you very much scared for FAV right now. Yes, they put themselves onto match point first, but now with Xavier breaking that trend and winning another defense, that means that FAV have only won 1 out of the last 7 rounds in a row. And now FAV, like I was saying, they have to match exactly what Xavier has done and win yet another defense. Now, they're going to Kitchen, which is the same bomb site that they won previously on their defensive half. But if you recall, that was a 1v2 clutch from Chloroform. Not the kind of thing that you would expect to replicate here. That's why FAV Gaming are on the line right now. Xavier have looked in control for the last 7 rounds. And I don't think that's going to stop here. FAV have to do all the work.
So much of the work, as you say, is going to be here on FAV, and that's why they're bringing up something a little bit different. The Alibi and the Vigil will both be able to contribute to a roam game where they can hopefully catch members of Xavier out on the flank. Number 2 going to be moving away there from Hooker, as he wasn't able to get any kind of a spawn peek, and obviously Onigiri is going to be holding onto that angle, seeing the door has been opened. If FAV can't get the value they want out of these roams, then this could spell the end for them, because this is where they're putting in a lot of their attention, a lot of their time, and it's going to be all about whether Xavier can catch them out or not.
Xavier on their attacks have been so good at playing patient, at waiting for FAV to make the first move, and that's why you see all of these Xavier players just watching angles from outside the building. FAV on their defense was so antsy, so eager to take early fights. Xavier repeatedly punished them for it. Now FAV have learned their lesson. They're playing more patient here, playing more passive. They're trying to hold a lot of map control. Afro soloing Theater, or you have 3 roamers downstairs holding Office, Blue Bar, Sunrise, Lobby. It's very ambitious defense for FAV Gaming, and Xavier, despite that, so far haven't been able to make a lot of ground. Starting to enter in the top floor, and it looks like the intention is to clear Afro head on. But the first kill comes out from Onigiri. Afro, what a shot! But he loses his shield in the process. 4v4, but at least Xavier have taken some map control.
Being forced out of his position, and Napier was just waiting and watching to see if he'd head towards the white stairs. He's going to be moving closer to VIP, though, and that means a lot of his options are being caught out. DCH very close to being able to see him, and yes, he's going to be able to do it. Number 2 going down, make that 2 with Afro as well. And just 2 members remaining here of FAV Gaming going up against 4 of Xavier.
50 seconds on the clock, but this might be the end of the line. Xavier have everything going for them right now. On match point, there's another kill for DCH, a triple. It's all on Chloroform. He won a 1 versus 2 to keep FAV in the game, but a 1 versus 4 is something completely different. Now that's a 4K clutch for DCH to close out this incredibly intense map between Xavier and FAV. Finally, they close it out.
A hard-fought victory indeed, and it seemed so black and white. Both of these teams exhibiting a monumental ability on their attacking rounds with weaknesses in each of their defenses. But what it brought to us was an aggressive and exciting and a fantastic game to round out here for these 2 teams in the APAC North Division first stage.
For Xavier, what a comeback. They were down 5-1 in the first half, and to come back, and not just within this game, but the comeback over the course of Xavier's season has been immense. 10th place in Phase 1, and now they are the only team in the league to take down Giants, and they've won yet another match here in Phase 2. Insane stuff from the team representing Thailand. Over to you, Milosh. I'm sure you guys have plenty to say about that one.
Yes, James. Yeah, it started off as FAV Gaming